Now that Argenti is out, we can finally talk about all the things in regards to his kit and also the overall value when it comes to him versus other DPSs. Today we are going to be reviewing him versus all of them, and also we're going to be talking about his kit as well, because I do think his kit is very simple, but with that simpleness might come a little bit of a problem in the future when it comes to Argenti's future. So other than that, let's go ahead and start talking about his kit, and then let's go into the review. For his kit, it's pretty much bare bones. There isn't really anything crazy in regards to how you would use them. It's very cut and dry. You use this, you use that, and then we get into the rest. So for his basic attack, it's just a normal basic attack, something you really don't ever want to do with Argenti, just because you aren't going to be able to use his talent. You're not going to get anything for your ultimate. You really just don't want to ever basic attack with Argenti if you could help it. So keeping your skill points high, pairing him up with some supports that'll get you some insane amount of skill points is going to help, because he's going to be wanting to use it quite a bit. So for his skill, it is going to be a full AoE hit, hitting the full wave with physical damage. And this is just overall a really nice thing to have when it comes to not only farming Simulated Universe or farming other modes like MOC or possibly Pure Fiction. There's a lot of really cool things that could possibly come out. We are entering a more AoE focused meta, so a lot of these characters, when it comes to the erudition path and some of the destruction characters, are getting a better shine in regards to their damage versus other single target damage dealers. So talking about his skill, this is going to help him proc his talent, which is going to be whenever he uses basic attack, his skill, or his ultimate, regenerate Argenti's energy and grant him a stack of hypothesis, and this effect can stack up to 10 times. Overall, Argenti is going to skyrocket in value and skyrocket in what he can do when you are going against a full wave of 5 enemies. Now, this isn't really hard to go after. A lot of the MOC stages, a lot of the Simulated Universe stages, they do either have, the 5 units already laid out for you, or maybe there are 2 bosses and they both want to spawn in their ads. So it either gives you 4 to 5 different enemies, and this is just overall going to help him with his talent quite a bit. So with getting that crit rate boost and getting the energy boost is going to overall help you a great amount when it comes to doing a lot more damage, because you can prioritize crit damage over crit rate with this talent. And then it's also going to help you get the energy you need for your ultimate, which we're going to be talking about right now, which is his main appeal. Argenti's ultimate is going to be quite a bit different from everyone else's in the game, because he is the only one that can stack his ult charge up to twice. And being that said, doing it once is going to give you your basic standard ultimate, where you're going to be consuming 90 energy and you're also going to be attacking all the enemies in the wave. Really nice, and can be used for certain situations where maybe there are a couple of mobs left over and you don't want to use your full 180 bar. So you can just go ahead and use the first half and kill them all, basically get that done, and then you can start stacking up the rest of the ultimate for the boss or whatever is coming up in the next wave. Now, if you do consume all of your energy after filling it up twice, you are going to get a much higher multiplier when it comes to hitting all the enemies with Argenti's ult. And then further than that, you are going to also get 6 other damage instances that will proc on random enemies. And this isn't as bad as it seems. Yes, if you are fighting a couple of tanky enemies, this might spread around like crazy, but with how much damage Argenti does with his ultimate, is going to basically KO all of the mobs that are going to be waiting there to take those extra hits. So if you are able to get lucky and you are able to do enough damage, all of these mobs should be out of the question, and your only thing left would be the boss getting the rest of the damage in. So this doesn't put Argenti pretty far back in the terms of how much damage he can do. I do think Argenti is pretty competitive when it comes to the DPS that he can do versus everyone else, because he is going to be hitting everybody on the wave, and this can help thin out a lot of different mobs at the same time and do extra damage to the boss if we're able to get those random damage instances on the boss only if your ult has already cleaned up the rest of the mobs. So I do think Argenti is going to be absolutely amazing when it comes to damage. I do think all of his portions of his kit will be able to work synergistically and help him a lot out with the skill hitting all enemies, making it easier for your ult to KO all the enemies, and then those damage instances end up going on the boss, whoever has the most health. I think it overall plays very well to his kit. But talking about Argenti, what do I think of him? What is the review? Where do I think he is in investment value? And even though I do say that he is probably going to be up there with one of the higher DPS characters, because yes, he is hitting every character in the wave, making it a lot easier to thin out waves and make those mobs go away, I do think because of this high energy restriction, even though he does help himself with his energy himself from his talent, you are going to need to pair him up with either REHOO or Ting Yun to get the most optimal amount of rotations or the most optimal amount of energy gain to get this ultimate as much, because that's where the most portion of his damage is going to be coming from. I do think in terms of investment, he is going to fall back quite a bit. He isn't offering anything really crazy, nor has an insane amount of gimmick to him to be able to buff up from other characters. if you buff up ultimate damage, you're buffing up ultimate damage across the board. So if anyone's were to, I guess you say, specifically support that type of status, then other characters will be able to receive the same buff. It's not kind of like how Jing Yuan or Himiko or all of these other characters have follow-up attacks and how they're able to get buffed from a new relic set. If you buff up ultimates, everybody gets buffed up. So Argenti is kind of in a weird spot, although he does kind of shine with a lot of characters that are going to be coming out when it comes to the stages that we fight with a lot of enemies. It is a very good thing to have, and I do think he's going to be pretty strong up until now, until the future, just because yes, we do fight a lot of AoE in all of these things that we fight, whether it be simulated universe, MOC, or all these other modes. Pure Fiction might be the same way with a lot of AoE, because they did say we have to kill a lot of enemies before a certain time limit or a certain turn limit is met. So I can't wait to see how he will fare in that. But looking at his kit and how cut and dry it can be, I don't think they'll have anything in specific to buff out Argenti by himself. We do already have a bunch of amazing options, of course, for him. Tingyun, Ho-Ho, Yukong, Bronya, Pella. There's a lot of really great characters that are going to be able to fit with him and his team for sure. I just don't think in the far future, where we're going to be seeing a whole new era of characters, if there's anything that Argenti is going to need that we wouldn't already have to make him stronger than he already is. Of course, we already have characters like Topaz, characters like Kafka, who are already setting their precedent as being the follow-up attack, person to have on the team, or possibly Kafka being the enabler for dot teams. These are the type of characters that have a fat ton of value and a great amount of investment value, and especially when a character has their own gimmick like follow-up attacks per se, that is a big thing to have too, because you can just buff up follow-up attacks, as we've seen from relics and other things like that with Topaz. There's just a lot of really cool things you get from having these other gimmicks to a character. But since Argenti is very cut and dry, since he only is doing skill and then ultimate, there's nothing really else getting thrown into his kit. I don't think from what we have already there would be anything else to add on to Argenti to make it possibly better, besides maybe a better single target support like Bronya, or maybe another AoE debuffer. But we already have Pella, so yeah, looking at him in the long run, he might be the worst aging DPS possibly, but that will be a very long time before something like that will actually happen. Of course, as we may know, from Sele all the way up until now, all these characters have aged beautifully. All these characters can do MOC, simulated universe, possibly even pure fiction. You can do all the end game content with any of these DPS that are currently out in the game if you are able to just go ahead and build the right team for them. I think Argenti would be surely fine for all the end game content for a very long time. I do think he's going to be one of the best at it, because yes, right now we are in an AoE heavy centric I guess you say fight list when it comes to a lot of the enemies that we get for all these different modes. It is always 5 enemies or maybe 4. So now that the fact that we're not getting any single target enemies like bosses that are just one target and that's it, or he doesn't want to spawn mobs, right now we're in a good place for Argenti. Right now Argenti is going to shine for sure. He's going to be doing a lot of damage. He does amazing with these situations, but possibly in the future, if they do shift back to single target damage, or they shift back into a meta where this AoE type of style is penalized, then we might see Argenti fall down a bit of tiers when it comes to where he's at right now. I do think he's absolutely amazing. I think he's a pretty great DPS. Investment wise, it is a little shaky just because of what I've said before, where it might be hard to look at what we can see in the future that might benefit him when we already have all the things that he needs. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. I do think he's an absolutely amazing character. If you're going for him, good luck. And if you're waiting for Ruan May, well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows why. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one, and peace.